So India by MSME is a series of actions we have taken. MSME अच्छा है, कच्चा छोड़ो, पक्का पकड़ो. India by MSME is to bring at the forefront of every ecosystem, lenders, policymakers, customers, regulators, saying that India will grow by MSME. In our recent survey, 85% of our borrowers said that the accessing credit is no longer a problem.
If I was to maybe categorize 2025 as a year of MSME resilience, then what will 2026 be about? India's MSMEs, they are 6.8 crore strong, are really the beating heart of the economy. They account for 30% of the GDP and nearly half the exports of the country. Therefore, it's only natural that they are the spark plug to grow India forward. In this special edition of MSME Sampark, the 4th edition, it's exactly what we are going to focus on. They are a story of resilience, growth, and the stellar performers that will take India forward into the next century. As always, you have UGRO Capital. They have brought out a special report on what the sector means, how it's going to grow, and where those opportunities are coming in. But more importantly, what it means for the entire economy as a whole and the ambitions of a growing India. We have with us a man who's dedicated his life towards empowering MSMEs in the country. He needs no introduction, but let me just bring him on board. Mr. Shachindra Nath, he is the founder and MD of UGRO Capital and somebody who comes with extensive experience in MSME financing in the country. And so, welcome.
Thank you.
You're somebody who's really dedicated his life towards bringing out the opportunity and really the potential that lies in India's MSMEs. Just give us a sense of where this thought came about. How did you get onto this journey? What has been your ambition when you look at MSMEs in the country?
Yeah, so it's an interesting pivot in terms of my professional career. Actually, I spent almost 25 years in broad-based financial services industry. Over a period of time, what I realized that one aspect of India, which is the Bharat, where the nation building is happening, credit was a necessity, but there was very few people who are dedicatedly focusing on that segment of the market. I come from a very small town. I've seen my early journeys, the struggle which a small business makes during my days in the corporate industry, and I felt that given God has given us some power to raise capital, bring a platform in play, then you can earn your living by doing anything. But if you can earn the same living by doing something which is very meaningful, thought was to create a new enterprise or new platform which fuels the growth of India's MSME. Because not only obviously you create a large enterprise, you create shareholders return, but simultaneously you also change the lives of millions and millions of underlying customer segment. So I think it's a journey. It's not a moment which all of a sudden it has happened. Over a period of time, among multiple opportunities, we felt that this is an opportunity which we collectively should focus on and build a new enterprise.
And it's been a rewarding journey because if you look at UGRO Capital, how it's grown and how the MSME sector has grown because of all the support that companies like yours bring in. There's always been sort of a perception towards MSMEs. And sometimes it's not the most positive outlook when you look at the formalized economy versus what MSMEs bring in. But now you have a trend where MSMEs are becoming more and more formalized. They are 1/3 of the economy of the country. Just talk to us about that trend and the role that somebody like you, UGRO Capital has had in bringing that out.
Yeah. Look, we are still relatively very small, to the overall credit market and especially also to the MSME market. I think so. We are a change incubator, but we are not creating the change in itself. Now, in last 5 to 6 years, MSME credit has become a mainline, credit agenda among all the lenders. Beginning at 2016-17, this was not the case.
Right.
Consumer, personal loans, few auto, vehicle, other segments were mainline lending. Now, MSME is at the forefront of credit delivery across banks, across large NBFCs. This I think so. This perception, in fact, our effort of bringing the MSME Sampark was to change the perception about how MSMEs are generally viewed. Right? Our first campaign around MSME Sampark was MSME Acha Hai. The whole concept was that this perception that MSME is a weak customer segment has to change, because ultimately, if the perception is negative, then obviously it converts into reality. What you will see over a period of time, few very systematic changes have happened in India. This perception of MSME not being a strong customer is from the fact that lenders were very formal by nature, customer was very informal. So our second campaign was for MSMEs, Kacha Chodo Pakka Pakdo, was because the MSME as a customer was largely as a part of the cash economy versus lenders part of the formal economy. So this gap between cash to formal was so huge that it created a perception that this is a weak customer. But with the change, multiple changes, when the demon happened and there is a behavioral shift, most of the small customers have now started believing that they have to be part of the formal economy. GST brought a very large formal ecosystem of recognizing the turnover. Banking got more democratized. The bureau behavior, which actually gives you the repayment, behavior for the customers, all of that has put a very massive shift. What you have seen for the payment system, I remember the old days when a maid at our home, when they have to send money, back at a very small town, it used to cost 10 rupees per 100 rupees. From there, it is almost zero. The similar shift of the payment type of ecosystem is now happening in MSME economy, and that's why you're seeing, right now, in our recent survey, 85% of our borrowers said that the accessing credit is no longer a problem. It is the amount of credit and the resilience of that is the problem, which is a big shift. Otherwise, for 3-4 years, I think in our first survey, almost 90% of our customers said that getting credit is accessing credit was a big problem. Now that's not the case.
And we are seeing that. So essentially what you're saying is the foundation has been laid, and now it's sort of beginning to bring out those results. And those are some of the results that we're going to talk about, because this is the 4th edition of the MSME Sampark report that I have with me, that UGRO Capital brings out semi-annually. And some very interesting findings that we've had that we're going to just quiz you about. But just to give us a sense, because this is the 4th edition now, what's the sort of transformation that you changed when you started bringing it out versus now? And is it sort of conforming to the vision that you've had for MSMEs in the country?
Yes. So as I said, that the whole purpose, look, we are technically an intermediary, right? We take money from banks and larger financial ecosystem and deliver that money in hands of MSME. Now, the people who give money to us, they had this view that the customer segment which we are servicing is a weak customer segment. Then obviously it's a problem, because our supply of money, was constrained. So in order to bring change this narrative, we brought the MSME Sampark on our customer base. We started showcasing that the MSME customer is becoming resilient. Yeah. So that's the reason why we did that. Over a period of time, this report has become an industry, benchmark, of which showcase that how the industry or the customer segment is moving, right? And majority of the people who bring out industry report is basically on the industry data. UGRO, because it's also is an operator and a lender to customers, it combined the industry data with our own customers' experiences and our customer data. So that shift we are seeing continuously. I think so. The 4th version of report, I think so. This is the first report. In last 3 versions, what we saw that it was all about increase in revenue, increase in growth, lack of credit. This is the first time we are seeing across sectors, other than hospitality and few others, that the growth has little bit come under pressure. The servicing ability is coming under pressure. The micro businesses are also under pressure. I think so we are going through the cycle wherein credit is now being delivered, and now it has to be calibrated to make sure that these customers remain healthy and there is no over leverage happens, as it's happened in case of, say, microfinance businesses.
Understood. But they are now a resilient part of the economy. If 1/3 of your economy is MSMEs, then clearly the sector is doing something right. But like you said, some places are coming under pressure. What is showing resilience, or what is holding ground right now? What is the key driving factor right now?
So look, I think so. The importance of small business in India is just beyond their contribution to the GDP. Right. It is because in our country, which is predominantly a fairly young country, if people has to remain, um, happy both emotionally, physically, mentally, then they need obviously more continuous jobs. And jobs can't be created by creating large industry across every city and town.
Right.
Which means it's only the small business, whether it's a small retail shop, whether it's a small manufacturing, any kind of services, the jobs are coming from there. And that's why continuous improvement of, and growth of MSME is important, for, health of the nation.
Right.
Okay? And that's why this is at the forefront of the policy. All forms of government, whether, right-wing governments, left-wing governments, they are all focusing on MSME because they also know that their constituent require employment, and employment is coming from MSME.
Right.
So obviously, and that is obviously that natural progression of that will contribute more to GDP. So that is very clear, and that's why it is at the forefront of across every, policy making decision making. Government have been supporting it quite vehemently. Now the question is that, how they can remain resilient. As I said, that we are seeing continuous pressure. There are external shocks happening, so there is tariff related shocks.
Absolutely.
There are multiple other things keep happening. One thing is, which is good about small businesses, is about the small business and entrepreneurial spirit. See, remember this, that small business are run by an entrepreneur, which is a small business, by a family or one or two people, and their survival is dependent upon that. So their agility to adjust to changing environment is far greater than what you see in large enterprises or medium-sized enterprises.
Absolutely.
The resilience comes from the entrepreneur's dependence on their own business, and because that's what runs their, bread and butter, and that forces them to continue in the business and adjust to the changing environment far more rapidly than what large organization can do.
Understood. So if the entrepreneur is at the center of running the enterprise, and the enterprise is really the growth engine for the economy, and then what they need is fuel, right? And that's where credit comes in. That's the fuel that is growth for these MSMEs. So in your Sampark edition, just tell us about how that fuel of credit is flowing into MSMEs today.
So I think so. What is very clear that credit growth for small businesses is growing at a good pace now. So this whole problem that the credit, obviously there are two ways to look at it. Overall credit gap versus the credit delivery, what is happening. Overall credit gap still continues to be fairly large. It would take around another 15-20 years to fulfill that gap. But at the pace at which credit delivery is happening, so it's a very unique situation wherein on one side we keep saying that there is a massive credit gap, but on the other side we are saying that the credit is, coming under severe pressure and businesses are under pressure. So it's a question of the credit gap and what people can absorb the credit and repay, right? Because credit is a formal ecosystem. Now, where we are seeing the challenge, or where we think what need to be worked upon, especially in the smaller businesses, ability to take how much of loan they have to take, and how much they can repay,
servicing that loan.
Yes, that need to be set properly, and that is a factor of also high degree of aspiration. So a little bit of calibration into aspiration of small businesses and what they can take, and what we as a lender should give need to be adjusted quite frequently. Because right now, if you look at the total block of total gross NPA, which is roughly around 1 lakh crore now, 65% of that belongs to very small businesses, what we call micro businesses, which means that these are the businesses which are taking more loan than what they can actually service.
So the effort has to be made to ensure that this doesn't become more fragile.
Yes,
right.
That
Smarter lending, and then ensuring that it aligns with best practices.
Yeah, I think so. It is as we say, Rome was not won in one day.
Right.
I think it's on the both sides. The suppliers of the credit also have to have patience. I think so. What happens that what we have seen in also in microfinance industry, whenever a new segment or a sector opens up, everyone jumps in and then want to grow disproportionately. Right. But that's not what you need. What you need is a calibrated growth, which is not low, but which is not excessively high. And that industry has to do a calibrated growth and should not provide, over leverage to the customers. And gradually customer need to adjust to that. Too much availability of credit also sometimes can create problem.
Understood. And you at UGRO Capital have been doing something different, and it's a very data-led approach. As I understand, you have something called a GROW score. There's sector focus, there is phygital presence that you have. Just give us a sense of how does this work? What is the difference that it makes in keeping those MSMEs in motion, and like you said, ensuring that the loan goes out to the right places and it's serviced in the right manner?
Just to estimate the repayment capability, over a period of last 6-7 years, multiple things have happened. So first is the digital payment track record. Second is GST. Third is repayment behavior on the bureau. I will compare this to the consumer loan ecosystem. If you go back in time and if you ask somebody in year 1995 or 97, 2000, and say if you were to take a car loan, how much time it would have taken, right? It was roughly around a month, right? So first, obviously, when you book a car, it used to come in 2-3 years time, but even to avail that or buy that car, you take 1 to 2 months, right? Today, if you walk into a car dealership, you can walk out with a car and financing done on tap, literally.
Right.
Now that has happened because of a data ecosystem around consumer which emerged. Bureau became fairly powerful, consumption demand, people's, repayment capability through their, cash flows from their bank account was all automated. Now that is something similar which is happening into the MSME ecosystem. If you pull a customer's GST, if you pull his bureau, if you pull his bank account details through account aggregation, actually machine can estimate how the customer would behave.
Right.
You don't need to ask anything. And that's what have been our focus. For the customer who have these footprint, how can we use data analytics and technology to estimate what would be the behavior and what's the capacity. And I think so that has been at the we have been our forefront. Obviously, this does not work for certain segment of the market.
Exactly.
As you go, deeper and you go more granular, customers who are still not heavy on that footprint, you have to do create physical presence and underwrite physically. And that's why we have this hybrid model. For a large segment of our market, we can do machine-led, and then credit officers and sales can support that. But in certain, in our tier 2, tier 3 cities, you have to do it physically. And that's why for lending to MSME requires a higher degree of OPEX, because you have to invest very heavily on data and technology, but simultaneously it does not eliminate the need of physical presence. You have to do that as well.
Understood. In fact, it's a very interesting thing that you're talking about, the need to still have a physical presence while you're seeing that digital transaction happen. But we've seen that the cash to code, the UPI led shift has been very prominent, right? Whether at the business level or at a consumer level. UPI is up, cash is down. There is e-commerce adoption, but it's still not blanket digital coverage, as it were. So where are we right now at this stage, and then what happens next from here?
So look, digital adoption is happening now. Digital adoption has multiple means, right? So one portion of digital adoption of receiving cash in the bank account rather than receiving in currency is happening, right? It is by force, it is happening. The underlying consumer doesn't want to pay in cash, and so as the businesses are also starting digitally, and they have realized that the cash is coming into a formal ecosystem.
Right.
Obviously, for credit purposes, that is a tool to underwrite better. But access to the customer, to reach out to the right customer, and to make sure that you underwrite it well, you take for proper collateral, you need physical presence. So digitization, especially on the payment ecosystem, has helped us to underwrite better, reduce our credit costs, and reduce certain percentage of OPEX. But still, physical, because also any form of such digital, data which we take gives you a probability of how the customer will behave only for 1 year. But we give loans to customer all the way up to 10 years. And that's why you need to, take physical collateral, for which you need physical presence. So there is lot to happen still. It would happen over a period of time, but we have not reached to the consumer kind of level wherein you sitting in Bombay can lend to a consumer, in Itanagar or Guwahati without a physical presence. I don't think so that has happened for MSMEs.
In fact, I have a follow-up question on that, and you've done this extensive survey for your Sampark report, 73,000 odd MSMEs that you've reached out to. Let's say you move beyond tier 1, tier 2. Let's say we go to a tier 3 city where there is adoption of digital payment, but the selling is still happening offline. How do you combine then these two factors into your business?
No, and I think that would continue to happen. I think so. Look, this while the convenience of the digital platforms is humongous, but that also have the potential to kill small businesses.
Right.
Right. So we need both. We need digital adoption. We need marketplaces, but we also need our small businesses to survive. What is left is for these small businesses to become part of those digital ecosystem.
Right.
Because if you look at most of the large digital marketplaces platform, they are only sourcing for small businesses, but they are not hyper local platforms. Hyper local platforms have not succeeded in India. So that's why these are two separate verticals. My view is that as you know, selling online is not required. I think a small business need to create more local communities, compete locally, and improve of their customer service and community based selling proposition, and that would still continue to grow them from where they are. India is a very large market. What more is important is digital adoption beyond payment is digital preparedness. So more GST related compliance, access to the bank information, access availability of your digital footprint. What we see continuously that MSME customers, while they accept payments digitally, but rest of the digital presence is very, very poor. So that we sometimes wonder that everyone uses a Google map to reach a location nowadays. But the same person, when you ask him that whether your Aadhaar is linked to your other things or not,
may not even know about it.
Yeah. So digital KYC is a challenge. Onboarding of customers is a challenge, because majority of our customers, we are one of the largest embedded financing platforms. So likes of PhonePe, Bharat Pay, Fino, Airtel, we embed with them to deliver last mile credit to a small merchant. But in even that highly digital platforms, to onboard the customers, there is an army of people which has to be deployed, because we fail to do the digital KYC. So that adoption for MSMEs to be prepared would bring down the cost of credit delivery, because finally this cost is embedded into us. To deliver the credit, if we have thousands and thousands of people, that cost finally is getting borne by the customer itself.
So that vision of now India by MSME that UGRO is focusing on, would that necessarily then involve a higher digital adoption, or is this mixed model enough for the moment?
Yeah, no, the mixed model. You see, India by MSME is a thought. As I said, that we are a sutradhar. We are not the actor in itself, because there are many players. What we have taken this view that as a smaller player relatively, on a base, when we started, we have reached 15,000 crore in a short period of 3.5 years. But still, we are
growing at an impressive pace.
Yeah, but still we are small, I think so. But we think that we have a role to play in being sutradhar to bring this at the forefront. So India by MSME is a series of actions we have taken. MSME Acha Hai, Kacha Chodo Pakka Pakro. India by MSME is to bring at the forefront of every ecosystem, lenders, policymakers, customers, regulators, saying that India will grow by MSME, and what all need to be done for that. It's just not the credit, whether it is regulatory ecosystem, whether it is intermediation, whether it is making a customer aware. So we are trying to bring everyone around it and say, if it is true that India would succeed by success of MSME, what all we need to do, just not the credit.
There's a lot more pictures on this drawing board.
Yes.
I want to talk about your 2026 outlook and what the survey has shown up. But just before that, 2025 has taught us a lot of lessons, especially with the kind of global shocks we've had this year. And one of the big headline items was, of course, US tariffs. Now, that has, of course, it has an impact on the economy, but specifically for the MSME sector, where has the stress really come in from these global shocks in 25?
So, fortunately for us, our design when we started in 2018 was that we will, support India's consumption-led economy. The sector selection actually excluded export. While actually, it was when we were on the drawing board, a lot of people said that 50% of India's MSMEs focus on export, and why you are not financing them.
Right.
Our view is that we are a small company lending to small businesses. We don't control the external, ecosystem.
Absolutely.
And we can only know what we eat, what we, do domestically is what we can understand.
Right.
So our sectors like healthcare, education, food processing, hospitality, light engineering, electrical equipment manufacturing, auto component, chemical, small businesses exclude, exports. So to that extent, as a lender, we are not affected. But obviously, in pockets of, I would say less micro businesses, but more small and medium size. It is more affecting the medium size enterprises,
Understood.
which are focused on export-led economy, are getting severely affected. Now, government is trying its bit. There is a 100%, credit line has come, and obviously everyone is hopeful of, a reset to happen. No, oddly enough, actually, if you look at in shrimps export, you saw, that has actually grown in spite of the tariff barriers. I think so. Some of these customers would get reset, and I think so. This is a time for some of these customers. By force they will, diversify and not be just one market dependent. That's a good thing. You saw yesterday, we signed, a trade treaty with New Zealand.
That's right.
And that was being opposed by the other side of the government there. But
more FTAs will sort of help.
More FDAs would come, but I think so. We will have a pain of around 1.5 years till the time this reset happen, especially to the component of medium and larger businesses, which are focused on that. Now, we have to all provide support. I think so. RBI is conscious of that. Government is fully conscious of that, and there is continuous engagement happening. That how do we support that? And if this continues, I think so more things would be done around that.
You mentioned that your sort of objective has been to focus more on domestic oriented companies, but still not everyone's immune to the shock. So as a lender in a period of uncertainty like this, are there sort of any credit structures or partnerships or any business pivots that can help when these global shocks hit in?
Look, other than the things like pandemic, I think so. You to some extent you build those buffer when you design the credit. I think the biggest buffer is diversification, not over. So if you look at our portfolio today, we operate out of almost 14-15 states, roughly around 300,000 customers, average ticket size of very small of 16-17 lakh rupees. And across 330 plus cities and locations. So we don't we avoid concentration.
Absolutely.
So, and if you do that, then obviously you will save through some of these shocks. And there is no other thing to do than do that itself. And also look at little bit of macro analysis. So one of the reasons why, as a relatively younger business, we focus very heavily on macro research day, is to look at what is happening and what is the probability of things to happen. Now we can't predict everything very accurately, but it can give you some sense of what to avoid and where to where not to be there.
Understood. So let's talk about 2026 now, and a lot of activity, a lot of action plan coming out of some global shocks. Some uncertainties still exist, but if I was to maybe categorize 2025 as a year of MSME resilience, then what will 2026 be about?
There are two parts of it, for us and for the market in general. For us, we have come to this conclusion that if you look at our credit delivery architecture, we focus on larger or bigger customer. We also have invested very heavily in our branch infrastructure across tier 2, tier 3 town. What we feel that the number of lenders who are in top 30-40 cities have become quite a bit, and their customers are being very well serviced, and we have limited role to play, and that's why we have been very heavily focusing on expanding our footprint across tier 2, tier 3 towns. And now that journey is completed. In last 1.5 years, we have expanded to 200 plus locations and reached our targeted 300 plus location. Now our 26 the full next year focus is to make sure that each of our physical location get to a certain level of volume and service X number of customers. Second is that we have found a very unique niche around merchant embedded financing. We acquired a small fintech last year, and that has been a great success for us. Right from zero, we have grown that portfolio to almost 1,700 crores now. because we realized that large payment ecosystem have brought very sizable merchant base, right? So like PhonePe, BharatPe, and all of them require credit,
Right.
but the friction or the technology and data analytics, prowess to integrate in them is fairly high back.
Right.
And with this fintech acquisition, we have been able to achieve that. So that is our second massive focus area. We think that the access to that customer base and providing timely credit can actually change the trigger. So for us, 26 would be not about the asset growth. It is about growing the assets in right ticket size at right yield to improve the company level, bottom line performance, because we have grown what we wanted to grow. The market per se, I think the market would grow in MSME at a slower pace than 25. Because even if you read through the MSME Sampark, you'll see that sector by sector, there is revenue contraction which has happened. There is leverage which has gone up, and in the micro enterprises there is more pressure. So obviously that will make lenders little more conscious, which is the right thing to do. And that's why I think so that from the base of last year to this year, there will be either static growth or little lower growth, and then as the market recalibrate, then it would grow again. So 26 would, this next year would be a year of patience, and digging your heels, and making it work rather than too much of exuberance.
So if 25 was resilience, 26 needs to be more patient.
Yes.
That would be the message.
Yes.
A couple of things, and this is again regarding the sector and how credit flows to MSMEs. You've often said that lending or the credit access to MSMEs should be as easy as what we have with consumer credit. Right?
Yeah.
Within a matter of minutes, app-based lending, good banks, good apps, you can get money easily.
Yeah.
What needs to change, whether it's from the policy side, from the regulatory side, MSME side, or even from the lender side, to make this a reality where access to credit and the ease of just getting that loan approved is a reality?
So look, I think so that journey, unlike in consumer, which happened at a very fast pace, for small businesses, it would take more, time. I think so. We are still three years away from that place. Reason is it's not the regulatory, it's not the lender, it's the customer in itself.
Right.
Because the customer has to change, right? As I was saying you earlier, that today, if you sit in Uber or an Ola and ask an Uber driver that what's your, bureau score, he would know that.
Right.
Because on, he has an integrated app in which he takes the financing.
Right.
But if you go an MSME customer and say, do a survey and say, what you should have to get you credit, half of them would not know. They know that they need more loan, but what they need to do,
how to go about it and ensure that they
no, behaviorally. So the simple fact is that if you delay your EMI by 5 days, it deteriorates your bureau behavior.
Definitely.
But still all of them would do that. So I think so, unless that does not change, the credit delivery, would not happen digitally.
Right.
And I think so that we all collectively need to now explain to small businesses that what need to change within themselves.
Right.
Right. Second is the type of credit. Majority of the MSME customer need a size of the loan which outsize their current repayment capability. Which means that their loan tenor has to be high, elongated, and there is a need of a collateral.
Right.
So that also, but that's also a factor of the aspiration. If I have a turnover of 50 lakh, next year I want to reach 5 crore turnover, rather than from 50 to 75 lakh. So that also need to be told to customers that you have to grow gradually. We are a young country, highly aspirational. We all want to grow faster than what we should, and that need to change. So it's a combination of, obviously there is more regulatory easing, there is a combination of customer change, and third, I think so what need to be done purely from the government and regulator level, that there has to be more incentive to do MSME credit. So I think so in pockets it's happening. Government provides credit guarantee, but that's not sufficient. I think so, like it has happened for microfinance, like it has happened for housing finance. Lenders who are doing this, national service of doing MSME credit, I think so regulators and policymaker has to believe that this is a good credit, and that's why there has to be an incentive to do that.
Right.
It can be in form of a reduced risk weight, it can be in form of giving a priority sector tag to entities which are in MSME lending. Combination of things has to be done so that the credit improves for MSME.
So you've listed out a list of to-dos, and let's see what comes forward. But last question, and based on, of course, the findings from your survey and the Sampark report, policyholders, banks, NBFCs, investors, even NBFC owners, if there is one action agenda that should be their priority for 2026, what would you want that to be?
This same India by MSME, we have to all believe that our country will progress with the progress of MSME. Right? And that's why in every boardroom, in every lender's bank's boardroom, while the return on asset, ROEs, growth rate is the priority agenda, but I would expect that within the government, within the RBI, within every lender, within all of the MSME industry body, how does MSME is the forefront to achieve their broader goal should be the priority. I think so. If we do that, things would start changing very dramatically.
Absolutely, and let's hope that the action comes forward on that. Mr. Nath, thank you so much for giving us your insight today, and of course bringing out this excellent report, the 4th edition of MSME Sampark. For those that are interested, this is of course easily available.
It's
everywhere.
Freely available on our website. Yeah.
Excellent. So you can log in and look at that. But thank you so much, sir, for joining in and sharing those insights on what MSMEs and really the growth engine of the economy, 1/3 of the economy now, means going forward, and how the year 2026 could shape up for them. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed our conversation on what the MSME sector looks like for 2026 and, of course, the growth of India's economy. If you want access to this report to get more details and insights, please visit www.ugrocapital.com and you can download the entire Sampark 4th edition.